close your eyes, breathe slowly, and imagine the world as it was millions of years ago. No cities, no machines, no electricity, only wilderness stretching endlessly beneath the stars. The air is crisp, carrying the smell of damp earth and wild grass. The night is alive with distant calls, hyenas laughing in the dark, owls gliding silently above, and the slow rustle of unseen animals moving through the brush. Now, picture yourself inside a shallow cave. The stone walls are cold to the touch. A small group of people huddle close together, their bodies wrapped in animal skins. Their breaths rise like mist in the chill of the night. They are afraid, but they are not alone. Togetherness is survival. Alone, they would be lost. This is the earliest lesson humanity ever learned. To endure, one must belong to others. At the entrance of the cave, a faint glow of embers burns in the ashes of yesterday's fire. The flames are weak, fragile like life itself. Someone guards it, feeding it carefully with dry twigs because they know, if the fire dies, the cold will creep in and predators will draw near. Fire is not yet a tool mastered. It is a mystery, a gift stolen from nature, kept alive only by constant care. As dawn begins to break, the sky turns pale. Shadows shift. The group rises, hungry, restless. Their eyes scan the land outside the cave. There is no certainty of food, only hope. Some carry crude stone flakes, sharp enough to cut, but not yet shaped with elegance. Others hold sticks, charred at the tips, pointed by fire. These are the earliest spears, rough yet powerful enough to pierce flesh. They move in silence across the grasslands. The earth beneath their bare feet is cool, wet with dew. Every sound is a signal: the crack of a branch, the alarm call of a bird, the distant thud of hooves. Hunger sharpens their senses. They search for the remains of a kill left behind by lions or hyenas. They scavenge before they hunt. At last they find it, an antelope carcass, half-eaten, left in the dust. With sharp flakes of stone they carve into it, cutting flesh, cracking bones. The marrow inside is thick and rich, a treasure of fat and energy. Their hands are stained red, but their stomachs will find relief. In this harsh world, nothing is wasted, and when food is scarce they turn to roots, nuts, and berries, digging at the soil with sticks, foraging among the trees. Nature demands flexibility, and those who fail to adapt do not survive. The wilderness is both teacher and judge. Now, let the sounds of this ancient world drift into your mind. Imagine the soft rush of wind across the grass, the gentle trickle of a stream nearby, the steady crackle of fire keeping the darkness away. As you listen, your body sinks deeper into rest. You are safe here, in the story of beginnings. Night falls again across the ancient land. Darkness presses close, filled with unseen dangers. A leopard prowls in the distance, silent paws moving through the tall grass. Wolves howl far away, their voices rising and fading like echoes through the hills. The people inside the cave listen. They know fear. They know that without protection, they are prey. And then there is light. A storm has swept across the land. Lightning strikes a tree, splitting it with thunder. Flames leap upward, fierce and bright, devouring branches, chasing smoke into the sky. The animals scatter, frightened of its heat and glow. But the people do not run forever. They watch from a distance, eyes wide, hearts pounding. Something within them stirs, a mixture of fear and wonder. Cautiously, they approach the blackened trunk, where fire still smolders. They reach forward with trembling hands, clutching long branches. A glowing ember clings to the tip. They carry it back to the cave, protecting it from the wind. For the first time, they bring fire into their world. At first, they do not understand it. The flames burn fingers, scorch the ground, consume whatever they touch. But slowly they learn. Dry wood feeds it. Green leaves smother it. Too much wind scatters it, but the right shelter keeps it alive. The fire becomes a fragile companion, one they must tend through the night. As the flames rise, the cold is pushed back. The shadows retreat. Predators hesitate at the edge of the light. And the people, they begin to rest. For the first time, sleep is not haunted by fear. For the first time, the darkness does not rule them. They discover more. When meat is laid across the flames, it changes. The smell is rich, the taste softer, easier to chew. Their stomachs ache less. Their bodies grow stronger. Fire transforms food into nourishment. It transforms survival into something more. Around the fire, voices begin to flow. Soft sounds, murmurs, gestures, laughter. It is not yet full language, but it is more than silence. The flicker of firelight invites connection. Children watch the sparks drift into the air. Elders hum quiet rhythms, a kind of music born from comfort. The fire does not only protect, it brings them together. And so fire becomes the center of the cave, the center of the night, the center of the growing human spirit. Now, imagine yourself sitting there in the glow of the flames. Feel the warmth on your skin. Hear the crackle of wood as it breaks apart. See the shadows dancing on stone walls. You are safe. You are calm. You are drifting slowly deeper into rest. The ancient world continues around you. The wind whispers. The stars watch from above. The fire burns steadily, a heartbeat of light against the endless dark. And as it burns, humanity takes its next step forward. The sun rises over the ancient plains. Golden light spreads across tall grasses, bending gently in the morning wind. Small groups of people emerge from their shelters. They are thin, their faces marked by hunger, yet their eyes hold determination. Today, survival depends not on one, but on many. Hunting alone is dangerous. A single person cannot face a wild beast, but together, they have strength. Slowly, they have begun to understand this. The more they move as one, the greater their chances. They walk in silence, their feet pressing softly into the soil. Some carry sharpened stones, tied to branches with strips of hide. Others carry long spears, their tips hardened in fire. These tools are not perfect, but they are more than bare hands. They are promises of survival. Across the grasslands, they see antelope grazing. The herd is swift, nervous, ready to flee at the slightest sound. To succeed, the hunters must move with patience, like shadows. They fan out, circling slowly, signaling with gestures. One steps forward too quickly. The herd scatters. Dust rises into the air. The hunt fails, but tomorrow they will try again. Failure teaches. Each mistake becomes memory. Each memory becomes wisdom. They begin to plan where to stand, when to wait, when to strike. Their movements grow more precise. Their hearts beat together, and one day the hunt succeeds. A young antelope falls, pierced by spears. The group gathers quickly. They cheer softly, not with loud voices, but with relief. This food will feed not just the hunters, but the children, the elders, the entire band. The kill is shared, not hoarded. For they have learned, one belly cannot eat alone while others starve. If the group dies, the hunter dies too. That night, the people gather around the fire once more. The meat roasts, filling the air with smoke and warmth. Children press close, eyes wide, learning without words. They see how their elders cooperate, how every life depends on the other. Bonds of kinship grow stronger. Slowly, patterns form. Some people hunt, some watch the fire, some care for the little ones, some gather roots and berries. Everyone has a role. This is not just survival. It is the first shape of society. Around the flames, gestures turn into sounds. Sounds turn into meaning. The hunters share what they saw. The direction of the herd, the danger of the lions, the tricks of the chase. The young listen, the old remember. Knowledge flows like water, passing from one generation to the next. And so, something new is born: trust, memory, family. These invisible bonds are as strong as stone and as warm as fire. They are what keeps the people alive, through hunger, through storms, through nights filled with fear. Now, imagine this scene: the gentle crackle of fire, the low murmur of voices blending with the night, the rhythm of breathing as the group drifts into rest together. You too can drift, safe, warm, protected, bound to the ancient human circle. The seasons change. The rains grow shorter. The rivers shrink. What was once green and fertile turns dry and cracked beneath the sun. The herds begin to move, leaving the empty plains behind, searching for new grass, new water, and the people must follow. Migration is not a choice. It is survival. To stay means hunger. To move means hope. The group gathers what little they carry: stone tools, wooden spears, skins for warmth. Children cling to their mothers. Elders lean on walking sticks. Slowly, step by step, they begin their journey. Across valleys, over hills, through forests where the air is heavy and thick, and into lands they have never seen before. Every journey is filled with risk. The land holds danger at every turn. Crocodiles wade in the rivers, lions stalk the shadows. Storms sweep across the open plains, shaking trees and flooding paths. The people endure with patience, clinging to one another. When one stumbles, another helps. When one grows weak, the group slows its pace. No one is truly alone, the nights are long. Beneath strange skies they build small fires. Their glow like beacons of safety. Sparks drift upward like stars born from the earth, joining the sky above. The people rest lightly, ears tuned to the sounds of the wild. Owls call, insects hum. The world is vast, but the circle of fire makes it small, makes it home. Through these endless movements, the people learn. They discover which plants heal, which waters poison, which paths lead to food. Each lesson is carved into memory, carried forward like treasure. Knowledge is survival, passed not in books, but in voices, gestures, stories whispered in the dark. Children grow up walking these paths. Their legs grow strong, their senses sharp. They know the scent of rain before clouds appear. They know the sound of hooves before the herd is in sight. In them the journey continues. The world itself changes. Ice creeps over distant lands, covering mountains and rivers. Cold winds sweep across the earth, driving animals south, driving humans too. To survive, the people adapt. They sew animal skins tighter against their bodies. They build shelters of bone and hide. They follow herds across frozen plains, leaving footprints in snow. Each challenge is a trial. Each trial makes them stronger. To live is to change, and those who change endure. Now picture yourself walking among them. The steady rhythm of footsteps, the crunch of earth beneath your feet, the wind brushing against your face. Ahead, the horizon stretches wide, endless, inviting. Behind you, the fire of your people glows faintly, guiding your heart. You move forward, slowly, gently. The stars above are constant, watching, patient. Just as they watched over the first humans, they watch over you now. You are part of this endless journey, and as you drift deeper into rest, you travel with them, safe in the rhythm of their survival. The fire burns low, its glow painting the cave walls with flickering shadows. Around it, the people sit quietly, full from the day's hunt, warmed against the night's chill. Yet something stirs in the silence. It is not hunger, not fear, but curiosity. A spark in the mind, as powerful as the fire itself. One person picks up a piece of charcoal from the ashes. With slow movements, they drag it across the stone wall. A dark line appears. Another line follows, then a curve, then the shape of an animal. Others gather close, watching, amazed. The cave wall becomes more than stone. It becomes memory. It becomes a story that will not fade when voices grow quiet. This is the dawn of symbols, marks on stone, shapes carved into bone, colors painted with earth and clay. These images carry meaning, reaching beyond the moment, binding the past to the future. But language begins not in pictures, but in sound. Around the fire, voices grow stronger, murmurs turn into patterns, patterns into words, not yet as we know them, but enough to say, here, or come, or danger. With each word, the world grows clearer. A thought inside one mind can leap into another. The silence between them begins to shrink. Imagine the power of this. To warn others of a lion's path, to call the group to water, to share the memory of where the herds have moved. Language is survival made faster, sharper, lighter. It is the invisible tool, more enduring than stone. And with language comes something deeper. Laughter, music, questions. Around the fire, voices weave together in rhythm. Some hum softly, some clap sticks, some drum on hollow logs. These sounds are not only for survival, they are for joy, for belonging, for the soul. As the flames flicker, shadows dance across the cave. Faces glow with wonder. Children watch, learning without knowing they are learning. They will carry these sounds, these marks, these rhythms forward. Culture begins not with kings or temples, but with whispers in the dark and lines scratched into stone. The people feel something new, connection not only to one another but to time itself. They look at the painted animal and remember the hunt. They look at the fire and feel the warmth of their ancestors. The past is not gone. The future is not empty. They are part of a story that flows endlessly. Now, let yourself drift into that moment. The low hum of voices, the soft rhythm of hands tapping stone, the faint smell of smoke curling in the air, the warmth of kin close by. You are safe. You are part of their circle. As your breath deepens, you sink into the rhythm of ancient life, the flicker of flame, the beat of the heart, the sound of the human voice, rising for the first time, shaping meaning out of silence. The world of early humans was never gentle. Storms swept across the plains. Wild beasts stalked the night. Food was never certain, and every day demanded effort. Yet in the face of struggle, something invisible and powerful held people together. Kinship. Kinship was more than blood. It was the bond of trust, the knowledge that survival was shared. One person could gather roots, another could hunt, another could tend the fire, another could care for the young. Together, their lives wove into a single thread, stronger than any one strand alone. Around the fire, the group became a family. Not every member was born to the same mother, but all shared in the same warmth, the same meals, the same dangers, and the same hopes. This unity was the foundation of endurance. When a hunter fell ill, the others carried food back to him. When a child cried in the night, many arms reached out to comfort. When predators circled, the whole group stood together, spears raised, fire blazing bright. Alone they were fragile. Together they were resilient. These bonds began to stretch beyond the cave. Two groups might meet on a riverbank. At first there was tension, silence heavy with suspicion. But then one offered food or fire or a gift of stone. Slowly, ties grew. Ties of exchange, of learning, of shared blood through marriage. Networks formed. Webs of families spread across the land. Such networks were lifelines. A lone band could vanish in famine. But a wide circle of kinship meant safety. It meant news of where the herds had moved, where water still flowed, where danger lurked. Stories traveled with people carried like seeds, planting survival wherever they went. Within these circles, memory deepened. The old spoke and the young listened. Knowledge was preserved in voices, in gestures, in stories told by firelight. the wisdom of tracking, of healing, of hunting, of weather, all passed through kinship, flowing like water from one generation into the next. Trust was the glue of these small societies. Without trust, there could be no cooperation, no shared fire, no successful hunt. The people who learned to trust endured. Those who betrayed or fought within their circle were left behind. Slowly, nature itself selected cooperation as a trait as vital as strength or speed. Now, imagine yourself within such a circle. The fire burns softly, faces glow in its light. A hand offers you food. Another wraps a skin around your shoulders to keep out the night air. Around you, voices murmur gently, familiar and steady. The danger of the wilderness lies beyond, but here, inside the circle, you are safe. As the flames crackle, the bonds of kinship tighten like threads of a warm blanket. You drift deeper into their embrace. Each breath slows, each sound softens. You are part of something greater, something ancient. And with that thought, peace settles upon you, carrying you closer to rest. The circle of kinship grew, and with it came a new step in humanity's long journey. Migration into the unknown. The old places, once rich with life, began to change. Herds wandered farther. Rivers dried to narrow streams. Seasons grew harsher. The earth itself seemed to whisper, "Move or perish." So the people moved. They walked beyond the lands they knew, following the herds that guided their survival. Their feet carried them over endless plains, across rivers that shimmered in the sun, through forests where the air was thick with birdsong. They entered valleys surrounded by mountains, where snow touched the peaks and cold winds blew against their skin. Each step was uncertain. They did not know what lay ahead, only that the land behind no longer promised enough. Fear was constant, but so was determination. As they traveled, they faced trials greater than before. In the north, icy winds cut through skins and furs, chilling bone. Food grew scarce, and fire became more than warmth. It became life itself. They built shelters from branches and hides, bone and stone, huddling together against the endless night. In warmer lands, deserts stretched wide and merciless. Days burned with heat, nights froze with cold. Water was hidden, found only by those who read the signs of the earth. Cracks in the sand, the flight of birds, the faint smell of damp soil beneath stone. These clues became maps to survival. Everywhere danger waited. Strange beasts prowled the new territories. Mammoths roamed in great herds, powerful and towering. Saber-toothed cats stalked the shadows, eyes gleaming in the dusk. Crocodiles waded in rivers, still and silent. Yet the people endured. They observed. They learned. With each challenge, adaptation shaped them. New tools were fashioned to meet new needs. Spears tipped with sharper stone. Needles carved from bone to stitch furs tight. Baskets woven from reeds to carry food and water. The further they wandered, the more inventive they became, and still they carried with them their most precious fire. In every land, fire was their constant companion, the light of home no matter how far they roamed. The stars guided them. Night after night, they looked upward, tracing the same points of light across the sky. The stars did not change, though the lands beneath did. To follow the stars was to follow memory, to move forward while never losing the thread of belonging. Picture this now, a long line of travelers walking slowly through an open plain. Children ride on shoulders, elders lean on staffs. Fire glows faintly in carried embers, wrapped in bark to protect it. The horizon is wide, endless, filled with both promise and mystery. The journey is long, but steady. Each step is soft, unhurried, like the rhythm of your own breath. Each step brings them closer to survival, closer to new beginnings. And as they walk, you too drift deeper, carried along by the calm certainty of their path. With each new land came new lessons. Survival was never a matter of strength alone. It was the mind, the hands, the ability to shape the world. That was the true power of humanity. At first, the tools were simple. Stones cracked together, leaving sharp edges. These flakes could cut meat, scrape hides, split wood. But over time, skill deepened. Stones were no longer broken by chance. They were shaped with care. A hunter could hold a piece of rock and imagine its future shape. With patience, he chipped and struck until the stone became a hand axe, balanced, strong, and sharp enough to carve through bone. Bone itself became a tool. From the remains of animals, people shaped points and needles, hooks for fishing, and awls for piercing hides. Wood, too, bent to their will. Spears were hardened in fire, stronger and straighter. Bows would one day bend and release with silent force, but even before that, every tool carried a whisper of invention. The more refined the tools, the safer the people became. Hunts grew more certain. Skins were stitched into cloaks and shelters, keeping out the cold. Food could be stored, carried farther, shared more widely. Each improvement meant survival stretched longer, safer, deeper into time. These tools also shaped community. One person might be skilled at striking stone, another at weaving reeds, another at crafting bone into needles or carving wood into handles. Each task became a gift to the group. Skill turned into role turned into belonging. By firelight, the tools gleamed. Children watched as stones were struck, sparks flying. They learned by imitation, their small hands fumbling, then steadying, then mastering. Knowledge passed quietly, without books, without schools, but through eyes and hands, from one life into the next. Over generations, tools carried memory. A hand axe was more than stone. It was the mark of thought, the trace of minds shaping the future. And with every new tool, the distance between human and beast grew wider. Yet the people never forgot their place in the balance of nature. They knew the earth gave, and the earth could take. Tools made them stronger, but never invincible. A spear could kill a deer, but not stop a storm. A knife could carve hide, but not end hunger in times of drought. The world remained vast, and the people remained humble before it. Now, close your eyes and imagine the slow rhythm of stone against stone. Tap, tap, chip, chip. The sound is steady, calm, hypnotic. The spark of each strike glows briefly, then fades, like the fireflies of ancient nights. Imagine holding a smooth stone in your hand, feeling its cool weight, knowing that with patience, you could shape it into something useful, something that carries life forward. As these ancient hands worked, as minds dreamed of sharper edges and stronger tools, humanity stepped further away from chance and closer to control. And as you listen, you too drift further, gently, into the calmness of sleep. The night sky stretched above, vast and endless. Millions of stars glimmered, silent fires burning in the heavens. For early humans, these lights were mysteries, distant, unreachable, yet always present. They watched the same stars as they traveled, slept, and hunted. In their silence, the stars became guides, constant markers of the unknown. But humans did not only see the sky. They felt it, the rising sun, the glowing moon, the endless cycles of light and dark. These rhythms pressed deep into their minds. The world seemed alive with patterns, with meanings that whispered just beyond understanding. And slowly, belief was born. A hunt that brought plenty was not just luck. It felt like a gift. A storm that broke a drought was not only weather, it felt like a blessing. Lightning, thunder, the blaze of fire. These forces seemed greater than any one life. They were mysteries to be respected, feared, perhaps honored. Rituals began in small gestures. A hunter placed a carved bone beside the fire, as if offering thanks for the animal's life. A mother whispered to the sky before sleep, asking for safety for her child. The dead were not left without care, sometimes covered in ochre, sometimes laid to rest with tools or ornaments, as if the journey continued beyond breath. These acts, quiet and humble, were the beginnings of spirituality. They were not yet religion, not yet temples or gods, but they were seeds, the first recognition that life was more than hunger, more than fear, more than flesh. Life was part of something larger, something unseen. Around the fire, these feelings deepened. Flames flickered, shadows danced on stone. Faces glowed in the light, solemn, thoughtful. Stories were told not only of hunts and journeys, but of spirits in the trees, voices in the wind, ancestors watching from the stars. The line between dream and waking blurred. In the firelight, imagination breathed life into the unseen, and from these moments, meaning grew. Humans began to mark caves with not only animals but symbols, handprints pressed against stone like signatures of existence. These marks were more than memory. They were prayers, connections between body and spirit, earth and sky. Ritual gave comfort. In a dangerous world, it was a reminder that they were not powerless, not alone. Every chant, every gesture, every painted wall was a way of reaching into mystery, of saying, "We are here, we endure." Now, imagine yourself there, sitting by the fire, listening to the low hum of voices. The flames crackle gently, casting long shapes against the walls. You feel the quiet presence of those around you, their breath steady, their eyes reflecting the glow. The night outside is dark, but here in this circle you feel safe, connected not only to those beside you, but to something larger, infinite. Your body relaxes, your breath deepens. The rhythm of ancient ritual carries you, slow and soft, into a deeper calm. The world was vast, and groups of people were scattered across valleys, forests, and plains. At first, each band moved alone, tied only to their own fire and kin. But as they wandered farther, paths began to cross. At a riverbank, one group met another. The air was tense at first. Spears were held tightly, eyes watchful, breaths quick. Yet hunger softened the moment. One side carried fresh meat, heavy but plentiful. The other carried fruit and roots gathered from forests. Slowly they stepped closer. A piece of meat was laid upon the ground. A hand stretched out with fruit. The exchange was silent, but its meaning was clear. This was the beginning of trade. From simple sharing grew patterns of trust. Fire was lent to those who had none. Sharp stones were given in return for skins. Over time, these exchanges became threads weaving groups together. A band alone was vulnerable, but a network of many could endure far more. Knowledge traveled with these gifts. One group showed another how to shape stone into a finer blade. In return, they learned of a new plant that healed wounds. Skills, stories, and tools spread like seeds, carried across the land through human connection. Such meetings were not always peaceful. There were times of conflict when fear outweighed trust. But the memory of sharing lingered. The groups that learned to cooperate gained more than food. They gained allies, partners, lifelines. Ritual also crossed these lines. Around different fires, songs echoed, rhythms hummed on drums of wood and hide. When two groups met in peace, sometimes they sang together, their voices blending into the night. Children from different bands played, laughing, chasing one another along the riverbanks. In their joy, walls dissolved, kinship stretched beyond blood, and so the first webs of society began to form. Not cities, not nations, but living networks, bound by food, by fire, by trust. The earth was still dangerous, but together people learned they could soften its blows. These exchanges also planted the seeds of memory. A necklace of shells might be carried across many journeys, its meaning known to all who saw it. A decorated bone might mark respect or gratitude. Small objects became symbols of connection, reminders of encounters that mattered. Now, imagine standing on that riverbank. The water flows gently, reflecting the pale light of dawn. Two groups approach, cautious but hopeful. You feel the weight of the moment, the quiet decision to share instead of fight. The air softens as gifts are passed. The sound of laughter rises as children splash in the shallow water. In this simple moment, humanity takes another step forward. Beyond hunger, beyond fear, they discover the strength of cooperation. They learn that survival is not only about the self, but about the bonds woven between strangers. As you listen, let this rhythm settle into you. The flow of the river, the murmur of voices, the steady crackle of fire. You too are part of this ancient exchange, safe in the circle of human connection. Night settles once more. The fire glows in the center of the circle, its light flickering against stone and skin. The day's hunt is done, the food is shared, and now there is time. Time not for work, but for something deeper. An elder clears his throat. The children lean closer, their small faces glowing in the firelight. The hunters sit quietly, their spears laid aside. A hush falls, and then the elder begins. His voice is low, measured, steady. He speaks of a hunt long ago when the people followed great beasts across the plains. He tells of danger and triumph, of courage and loss. His hands move as he speaks, drawing shapes in the air, horns of the animal, flight of the birds, the path of the rivers. The listeners are still, their eyes wide, their hearts carried by the rhythm of his words. This is more than memory. It is storytelling. Through stories, knowledge travels farther than one lifetime. Children who never saw the great hunt now know its lessons. Hunters who were not there feel the wisdom of those who came before. The past is not lost. It is alive, carried on breath, preserved in sound. The firelight becomes a stage. Faces flicker like masks. Voices weave like music. Some stories explain the world. Why the sun rises, why the rivers flow, why the stars move across the sky. Others tell of spirits in the trees, ancestors in the heavens, voices that guide and protect. And in these stories, imagination awakens. The people begin to dream not only of what is, but of what could be. They imagine journeys to new lands, hunts greater than any they have seen, futures brighter than the present. Storytelling becomes not just memory, but vision. Songs join the words. Rhythms tapped on logs. Humming, chanting, rising and falling like waves. Music softens fear, calms children, carries voices into the night. The circle becomes more than survival. It becomes culture. Symbols appear too. Marks scratched into bone. Patterns painted on skin. Hands pressed against cave walls, leaving their outlines in red and black. These are more than decoration. They are signs that say, we were here. We lived. We remembered now. Imagine yourself in that circle. The fire warms your skin. The elder's voice washes over you, slow and steady. You feel the rhythm of his words, the gentle comfort of story wrapping around you like a blanket. The crackle of the fire blends with the soft hum of voices. Your body relaxes. Your breath slows, just as those long ago drifted into sleep by the fire, carried by story and song. You too are carried now, safe, calm, held in the oldest cradle of humanity, the story. Deep inside the caves, where sunlight never reaches, the walls tell stories without words, shapes of animals, Bison, deer, horses stretch across stone, drawn in ochre and charcoal. Handprints, red and black, press against the surface like signatures from the past. The air is cool and still, the silence broken only by dripping water echoing in the darkness. By the glow of a small flame, a figure kneels, grinding minerals into powder. With careful hands, they mix earth and water, clay and ash, until color is born. A reed or brush, a finger, a hollow bone, these are their tools. The cave wall becomes their canvas. What drove them to paint? Perhaps memory, capturing the hunt, fixing it in place so it could be remembered. Perhaps ritual, an offering to spirits, a way to call the animals back when food was scarce. Or perhaps simply beauty, the joy of leaving a mark, of turning thought into form. Whatever the reason, the paintings endure. They whisper across thousands of years, voices without sound, visions without words. In their stillness, they carry life, the leap of a horse, the horns of a bison, the curve of a human hand. The act of painting itself was more than art. It was gathering. People carried torches into the cave, light dancing on stone. They watched as shapes appeared, as walls became alive. Children gasped. Elders nodded. The moment was shared, the meaning held in every heart. These creations connected them to one another and to something greater. The caves became sacred, not just shelter, but memory made permanent. To step inside was to step into the past, to see not only your own life, but the lives of those who came before. Art also found its place beyond the caves. Shells were strung into necklaces. Teeth of animals were polished and worn. Skins were painted, bodies decorated with lines and symbols. Each mark carried meaning. Some for beauty, some for status, some for mystery known only to those who wore them. In these small acts, humans declared themselves not only survivors, but creators. They were more than hunger, more than struggle. They were dreamers, leaving traces of imagination for the future to find. Now, imagine standing in such a cave. The air is cool. The walls stretch high, covered with ancient lines and shapes. Your torch flickers, casting shadows that make the painted animals seem to move, alive in the glow. You reach out and place your hand upon the stone. You feel the connection, a bridge across time. Someone once stood where you stand now, breathing the same air, leaving their mark. Your breath deepens. Your body softens. You are part of the same story, the same thread of creation. The cave holds you gently, the silence like a blanket, the art like a dream that never ends. Long before maps, long before compasses, humans read the world directly. The land itself was their guide, the animals their teachers, the wind their signal. To live was to listen, to survive was to notice. At dawn they lifted their eyes to the sky. The color of clouds, the flight of birds, the taste of the air, all spoke of weather to come. A shift in the wind meant rain. A red horizon meant storms. The patterns of stars told them when to move, when to stay. The heavens were not silent. They were voices of direction. The earth, too, carried messages. Footprints pressed into mud revealed the path of antelope. Crushed grass whispered of a herd moving through the night. Broken branches showed where predators had passed. Every mark was a story, every detail a map. The people walked not blindly, but with eyes tuned to the smallest signs. Water was life, and they learned to find it. The buzz of insects, the cry of thirsty animals, the coolness of certain plants. These were hints that water lay hidden nearby. In dry lands, they dug at the earth, and sometimes, against all odds, clear water flowed. Seasons brought their own lessons. In spring, new plants grew, tender and edible. In summer, herds swelled, their young plentiful. In autumn, roots grew thick, storing strength for the cold. In winter, survival meant memory, knowing where food had been hidden, where firewood had been stored, where the caves stood against the snow. Humans were not apart from nature. They were inside it, woven into its rhythm like thread in cloth. They learned to take only what they needed, for to strip the land bare was to invite famine. Gratitude lived in their hearts, expressed in quiet rituals before a hunt, in offerings left behind, in songs whispered to the wind. At night, when the fire burned low, they listened. The hoot of an owl, the distant roar of lions, the chorus of insects, all told them the world was alive, vast and balanced. Fear was there, yes, but also awe. To feel the immensity of nature was to feel both small and connected, fragile and protected. Now, picture yourself beneath the same sky. The stars gleam above, countless and steady. The grass sways softly in the night breeze. A stream nearby trickles with calm persistence. You breathe in the cool air, the scent of earth and leaves. You are not separate from this world. You are part of it. Your breath slows to match the rhythm of the wind. Your heartbeat softens to match the flow of water. Like the people of long ago, you rest in harmony with the land, safe, balanced, at peace. Life in the ancient world was never easy. Hunger was a constant companion. Storms tore across the land without warning. Predators waited in the shadows, sharp teeth glinting in the dark. And yet, humanity endured. Resilience was their quiet strength. When food ran out, they searched farther. When storms destroyed shelters, they built again. When predators struck, they learned new ways to defend. Every hardship was a teacher. Every loss carved a lesson into memory. Famine came often. Sometimes the herds vanished, chasing greener pastures beyond the horizon. Days passed without meat, and the people turned to roots, nuts, and bitter plants to quiet their hunger. Children cried, but mothers sang to soothe them, soft songs rising like comfort in the night. They discovered that even in scarcity, small things could keep life alive. An overlooked fruit, a hidden cache of seeds, a single spark of fire kept burning. Predators, too, shaped their resilience. Lions and saber-toothed cats stalked the open plains. Hyenas waited for weakness, but humans did not surrender. They built courage in numbers. They carried fire into the night, the flames bright enough to drive fear into the eyes of the beasts. Spears rose together. Voices shouted as one, and slowly predators learned that humans were not easy prey. Cold was another trial. When ice spread across the land, winds cutting through flesh and bone, humans adapted. They stitched hides more tightly, built sturdier shelters, gathered close around fires. The cold tested them, but it also taught them patience and planning. To endure the winter meant to prepare in autumn, to think ahead, to remember. In every hardship, creativity was born. A new tool, a new way of hunting, a new way of keeping food for leaner days. Each idea was survival made tangible. Each invention carried humanity forward another step. Resilience was not only physical, it was emotional. The bonds of kinship, the warmth of shared fire, the comfort of song and story gave them strength to endure what the body alone could not. Even in fear, they found laughter. Even in loss, they found hope. Now, imagine sitting beside their fire on a night of hardship. The wind howls outside the cave, snow drifting against the entrance. Inside, the flames glow softly, wrapping the group in warmth. A mother hums a lullaby. An elder tells a story of hunts long ago. Children lean against one another, eyes heavy with sleep. The storm rages, but here, in the circle of light, there is peace. Your breath follows their rhythm. Slow, gentle, steady. Like them, you endure. Like them, you find safety and connection. The world outside may be harsh, but here, In this story, you are warm, protected, and calm. As time passed, the small circles of kinship grew. What began as a handful of families became bands, and bands grew into tribes. The world was still harsh, but numbers brought new strength. Where once 10 hunters faced the wilderness, now 50 could move together, their firelight shining brighter in the dark. With larger groups came greater cooperation. Some hunted, some gathered, some crafted, some guarded. Each person carried a role. Each role became part of a greater whole. The hunters returned with meat, but it was the gatherers who filled the baskets with roots and fruits, the tool makers who shaped the blades, the fire keepers who guarded the embers. Survival was no longer the burden of one, it was the achievement of all. Knowledge became the most precious gift. Elders taught the young how to strike stone, how to read tracks, how to sense rain in the wind. These teachings were not written on paper. They lived in memory, in words repeated, in gestures shown again and again. A boy watched his father chip stone. A girl watched her mother stitch a hide. Slowly, by hands and eyes, the skills of survival passed forward. But knowledge grew larger than tools and hunts. Stories carried wisdom too. Tales of where the herds once moved, of where rivers once flowed, of dangers remembered and victories won. Each story stretched the memory of the tribe beyond one lifetime, tying past and future together in a single thread. As groups grew, so did ritual. Songs grew louder, rhythms stronger. Together, voices rose in chorus, echoing against hills and valleys. Dances stamped patterns into the earth, feet beating in unison, hearts moving as one. Ritual was more than celebration. It was unity made visible, a way of binding many people into one body, one breath. With cooperation came protection. A small group could be broken by hunger or beasts, but a larger one could endure longer, defend stronger, and recover faster. Disputes still arose, as they always do, but the bonds of kinship and ritual reminded them of the greater whole. Peace was fragile, yet valuable, and many chose it over conflict, and so culture spread, not through conquest, but through sharing. Groups met at rivers and plains, exchanging not only food and tools, but songs, dances, and stories. A melody heard in one camp would be sung in another, a carving from one tribe copied by another hand. Ideas traveled with footsteps, weaving the human world together. Now, imagine yourself among them, a wide circle of people gathered beneath the stars. The fire burns at the center, voices rising in soft song. You feel the warmth of many bodies, the rhythm of many breaths. Above, the sky is vast, filled with light. Around you, the circle is strong, united. You breathe slowly, deeply. The song becomes a lullaby, carrying you gently into rest. Just as they once drifted into sleep by firelight, safe among many, so too do you now, held by the same ancient bonds. As groups grew and spread, something subtle yet powerful began to take shape. Identity. No longer were humans only defined by hunger and survival. They began to carry with them a sense of who they were. Symbols were among the first markers of this identity. A handprint pressed on cave stone, a necklace strung with shells, a pattern painted on skin. These were not random. They told others, we belong to this group, this fire, this circle of kinship. A symbol could carry meaning across distance and time, even when words failed. Tradition added another layer. Certain songs were sung only during the hunt. Certain dances were performed before journeys began. Fire was lit in specific ways, stones placed in certain patterns. These acts repeated generation after generation until they became more than habits. They became rituals of belonging. Memory, too, was part of identity. Elders recalled ancestors, speaking their names, telling their deeds. The young grew up hearing these stories, learning that they were not alone in time. They were threads in a long fabric, bound to those who came before and to those who would come after. This sense of belonging gave humans resilience beyond their bodies. When storms destroyed shelters, when predators took lives, when hunger weighed heavy, people still found comfort in knowing they were part of something greater. Even in loss, the group endured. Even in death, memory preserved the presence of the fallen. Identity also shaped how groups saw others. Strangers were approached with caution, but sometimes welcomed if bonds could be woven. The exchange of gifts, the sharing of songs, the marriage of kin, these gestures expanded the web of identity outward, stretching it across valleys and rivers. Slowly, diversity grew. One band painted spirals on their bodies, another carved lines into wood. One sang in high tones, another in deep hums. Each group carried its own way of marking life, its own rhythm of survival. Yet beneath all differences, they were bound by the same fire, the same hunger, the same human heart. Now, imagine yourself in one of these circles. You sit by the fire, a necklace of carved bone resting against your chest. The group begins to sing a song, one taught by elders long ago. The rhythm is simple, steady, echoing into the night. You hum softly, joining your voice to theirs. In that moment, you are not only yourself, you are part of a chain stretching backward into memory, forward into the unknown. The fire glows. The song continues. You feel your breath fall into rhythm, slow and gentle. The warmth of belonging wraps around you like a blanket. And as the voices rise and fall, steady as waves, you drift deeper into rest. The wilderness was alive with countless creatures. Herds of deer, mammoths, wild horses, wolves moving silently in the night. Some were hunted, some feared, yet among them a few slowly became something more. They became companions. It began with wolves. They lingered at the edges of firelight, their eyes glowing in the dark. At first they came for scraps, for bones tossed aside after the hunt. The people watched them warily, knowing the danger of sharp teeth. But the wolves did not always attack. Some grew bold but not hostile. They lingered, night after night, drawn by food, drawn by warmth. The people noticed. When wolves were near, other predators stayed away. Lions prowled less boldly. Hyenas circled more carefully. The wolves in their hunger had become a kind of protection. Slowly, bonds formed. A piece of meat tossed closer, a wolf daring to approach, a human hand not striking but waiting. Trust grew, fragile but real. Over generations, these wild hunters became partners. They followed humans on hunts, their noses sharp, their strength useful. They guarded camps, their howls warning of danger. And in return, they received food, warmth, belonging. From wolf to dog, a friendship was born that would endure for all time. Other animals followed. Horses, once wild and swift, were watched closely. At first they were hunted, but later their speed and strength became gifts. To ride, to carry, to move farther with less effort. This was a power no human could match alone. Goats and sheep were gathered too, their milk, meat, and skins sustaining families. These creatures became more than prey. They became resources, woven into daily life, cared for, guided, and protected. The bond with animals changed the rhythm of survival. Where once people moved endlessly, following herds, now herds could be guided, tended, kept near. Where once danger stalked in silence, now dogs stood watch, their senses sharper than human eyes or ears. The partnership made life not only safer, but richer. Beyond survival, there was also affection. Children reached out to stroke the fur of dogs, to press against the warmth of sheep. Humans found comfort in these bonds, joy in the presence of creatures who lived beside them. It was not only utility, it was companionship, a soft thread woven through the harshness of life. Now, picture yourself beside one of those ancient fires. A wolf sits at the edge of the light, its eyes calm, no longer filled with fear. You toss it a piece of meat, and it takes it gently, retreating only a little before settling again. Around you, the group rests more easily, their safety stronger for the animal that keeps watch. The fire crackles softly. The night hums with distant sounds. But here, in the circle of light, you feel the bond. Human and animal, life and life together. Your breath slows, your body softens, and with that quiet companionship, you drift deeper into peace. For countless generations, humans moved with the seasons. They followed herds across valleys, searched rivers for fish, gathered roots where the earth was rich. Life was motion, a cycle of leaving and returning. Yet slowly, something began to change. Some places offered more than others. A river that never ran dry, a plain where herds always returned, a forest thick with fruit and game. These places became familiar, dependable. Instead of passing through, people lingered. The earth itself began to feel like home. Shelters grew sturdier, no longer just branches and hides, but structures made to last. Poles driven deep into the soil, covered with skins, woven with grasses, roofed against rain. In colder lands, mammoth bones formed frames, draped with heavy furs. These were not temporary shelters. They were beginnings of permanence. With time, people learned to keep food longer. Meat smoked over fire, dried beneath the sun, nuts stored in woven baskets, roots buried deep to stay cool and safe. This meant less wandering, more staying. A place that once held them for a season, now held them for many. Home was born. The fire, once carried from camp to camp, became a fixed heart, always burning, always tended, always waiting. Around it, children played, hunters prepared, elders spoke. The fire no longer only marked a night's rest. It marked belonging. As homes grew, so did memory. Generations returned to the same riverbank, the same valley. They buried their dead nearby, marking the land with stones and offerings. The earth itself held their presence. To walk these grounds was to walk among ancestors. To sleep by this fire was to sleep where countless others had slept before. With settlement came new rhythms, days of gathering and hunting, evenings of work by firelight, nights of rest under the same roof. The people began to know not just the path ahead, but the place beneath their feet. Still, they did not abandon movement. The world was too vast, too shifting. But they carried within them the seed of staying, a sense that life could be rooted, that safety could grow deeper than one night's shelter. Now, imagine yourself sitting by one of these early homes. The frame is simple, yet strong. The smell of smoke drifts from the hearth. The earth beneath you is cool, yet familiar. Around you, voices murmur. Children laugh softly, dogs stir in the corner. Outside, the river flows, steady and calm. You breathe deeply, slowly. The warmth of the fire and the walls around you wrap you in peace. For the first time in this long journey, the world does not feel endless. It feels contained, gentle, safe. Here, in the beginnings of home, you rest. For thousands of years, people lived by following the rhythms of nature. They gathered what grew wild, hunted what passed by, and moved when the land grew empty. Yet one quiet observation began to change everything. Seeds. A fruit eaten beside a river, its seeds tossed aside. Weeks later, new shoots rose from the same ground. A stalk of grass, its grains falling into soil, returned again the next season. Slowly, humans began to see the pattern. What the earth gave freely could be encouraged, guided, shaped. The first planting was simple. Seeds scattered near the camp, pressed into soil with sticks, covered lightly with earth. Water poured from hands or carried in skins. Days passed, weeks passed, and green returned where none had been. This was no longer waiting for chance, it was the beginning of choice. With planting came patience. People stayed longer in one place, tending shoots, protecting them from animals, watching them rise. The harvest was small at first, but it meant security, food that could be trusted, food that belonged to them. They learned to keep seeds from each harvest, storing them carefully, saving them for the next season. They learned which soil gave more, which plants grew stronger, which times brought the best return. Farming was born not in grand leaps, but in countless small acts, quiet and steady. Animals, too, became part of this rhythm. Goats and sheep were no longer only hunted. They were kept, guided, fed. Their milk nourished, their wool warmed, their presence gave continuity. The land was no longer only a wilderness to be followed. It became a partner, a provider, a place to shape and to care for. This shift was profound. For the first time, people looked at the earth not only as a path, but as a home that could grow with them. Fields replaced endless wandering. Harvest replaced constant hunger. The rhythm of life slowed, steadier, more rooted. But farming was not only survival, it was connection. It bound people even more closely to the land, to the cycles of rain and sun, to the soil beneath their feet. They sang as they planted. They gave thanks as they harvested. Ritual grew around the earth itself, honoring the hidden forces that made life possible. Now, picture yourself in one of those early fields. The soil is dark and rich beneath your hands. The air carries the scent of rain, fresh and full. Tiny shoots push upward, green against the brown earth, fragile yet determined. Around you, people work quietly, their movements slow, steady, in harmony with the land. You breathe deeply, the rhythm of planting falling into the rhythm of your own body. Each seed pressed into the earth is a promise of tomorrow, a quiet assurance that life will continue. And with that gentle certainty, you sink deeper into rest, carried by the calm of the ancient fields. The fields gave more than food. They gave reason to stay. No longer did people move endlessly with the herds. No longer did they wander without anchor. The soil called them back each season, and soon the first villages began to appear. At first, they were simple clusters of homes, huts made of mud and reeds, frames of wood covered with hides, roofs thatched with straw. Smoke curled from hearths, rising into the sky in thin, steady streams. Fires no longer belonged only to the night. They burned all day, warming, cooking, comforting. Around these fires, life unfolded in new patterns. Children played together in the open spaces. Women ground grain with stone, their rhythmic movements steady as the turning of the seasons. Men sharpened tools, mended nets, prepared for the next hunt or harvest. Elders sat in the shade, sharing stories that tied the group to its past. The village was more than shelter. It was community. Each person's work flowed into another's. Food was gathered, prepared, and shared. Tools were crafted, traded, and taught. No one lived alone, for survival was woven into the fabric of many lives. With villages came abundance. When harvests were good, food was stored in jars and pits, kept for leaner times. With storage came security, and with security came growth. Families grew larger, bonds grew stronger. People had more than enough time to think, to create, to imagine. But villages also brought challenges. Disagreements over land, over food, over leadership arose. Yet even in conflict, the bonds of kinship held. Rituals of peace were created. Rules were spoken, traditions reinforced. Order grew not by force, but by the quiet recognition that harmony was needed for survival. Together people shaped their world. Paths formed between homes. Stones were placed in circles for gathering. Wells were dug, bringing water closer. The village became more than a shelter from the wild. It became a place of belonging, a place that carried memory forward in walls and hearths. Evenings in the village were calm. As the sun fell, fires lit the homes one by one, each flame a beacon in the night. Voices blended together. Laughter, song, the cry of infants, the chatter of elders. Above, the stars spread wide, the same stars that had guided migrations, now watching over rooted lives. Now, imagine yourself in such a village. The ground beneath your feet is warm from the day's sun. The air carries the scent of grain and smoke, simple, comforting. Around you people move gently, their tasks steady and calm. Children chase each other in the dusk. Dogs bark softly at the edge of the fields. The world is no longer only survival, it is home. You breathe slowly. You feel the rhythm of the village life, measured, enduring, safe. Just as the fire glows steadily in each home, so too does your breath glow softly within you. And as night descends, you drift deeper, resting in the quiet heartbeat of humanity's first villages. As villages grew, so too did tradition. The cycles of planting and harvest became more than work. They became rituals woven into the rhythm of life. Each season carried its own meaning. Each return of growth a reminder that life was steady, reliable, a gift renewed. When seeds were planted, songs were sung. Voices rose together, asking the earth to be generous, the skies to be kind, the rains to fall in their time. Hands pressed seeds into soil not only with hope, but with reverence, as if each grain was more than food, it was a promise of tomorrow. When the harvest came, the village gathered. Grain was ground, fruits collected, animals brought in from the fields. Fires blazed brighter than usual, and the night filled with celebration. People danced in circles, stamping their feet in rhythm with drums. Laughter echoed, children played, and elders smiled, remembering seasons long past. These celebrations were more than joy. They were survival made sacred. To give thanks was to remember that life was fragile, that abundance was not guaranteed. To share in song and feast was to strengthen the bonds of kinship, to remind each person that they were part of something greater. With each ritual, culture grew deeper. Stories told at harvest became myths of creation, tales of spirits who brought rain, of ancestors who guided the crops. Songs repeated year after year became threads connecting generations. The people no longer lived only in the present moment. They lived in time itself, carried by the memories of the past and the hopes of the future. The earth shaped them, and they, in turn, began to shape the earth. Yet even as their skills grew, they never forgot their place within the larger whole. The soil was not theirs to own, but to tend. The animals were not only theirs to use, but to honor. Life was a cycle, and they were one part of it. Now, imagine yourself at such a harvest feast. The air is warm, filled with the smell of roasted food and smoke from many fires. The stars shine bright above, and the voices of the people rise into the night, singing songs older than memory. You sit among them, sharing in the food, the laughter, the gentle rhythm of drums. Around you, faces glow in firelight, peaceful and content. Slowly the songs quiet. The fires burn lower. Families retreat into their homes. Children curl against their mothers. Elders close their eyes. The village grows silent, resting beneath the vast sky. The earth itself seems to sigh, calm and full. You breathe in, you breathe out. Your body grows heavy, your mind drifts light, just as the people of long ago laid down by their fires, safe in the bonds of kin and tradition, so too do you now. The story of humanity's beginnings fades into stillness. The fire glows faintly, the stars shine above, and you drift into deep, gentle sleep.